Observe discipline and rules.
January 13th, 2015. Part of the speech at the 5th plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Commission for Discipline Inspection. As our ancestors said, nothing can be accomplished without regulations and rules. Footnote 1, Lu's Spring and Autumn Annals, Lu Shi Chun Qiu. End of footnote 1. Discipline and rules are indispensable for political parties, especially for Marxist parties. In my view, the internal discipline and rules of our party are the codes of conduct that party organizations at all levels and all party members must observe. In general, what do party discipline and rules include? First, the party constitution, the overriding statute all party members must observe. Second, mandatory and binding party discipline, especially the political discipline all party members must abide by on political direction, stance, words, and actions. Third, state laws, from which no party member or official is exempt. The state laws were formulated by the people under the leadership of our party, and our party must set the example in obeying those laws. Fourth, the traditions and working practices developed by our party over the years. It is easy to understand that all party members must observe the Constitution and other rules and regulations and all state laws. But why are the traditions and working practices developed by the party over the decades also important party rules? This is because as a party with a very large membership, we need to rely not only on the Constitution and discipline of the party, but also those traditions and working practices. Although they are unwritten, they still represent traditions, norms, and requirements that should be observed. There are both written and unwritten rules of discipline. Rules of discipline are binding, and unwritten rules are norms for self-discipline. Many rules of the party have proven to be effective. They reflect its insights and are a summary of its experience. For instance, no factions of self-interest are allowed in the party, and those who form them actually violate political discipline. To prevent such phenomena from the outset, we need to promote the observance of political rules. Some officials group together as fellow townsmen or alumni. They hold regular gatherings and rank themselves according to seniority as old-time graduates of the former Whampoa Military Academy did. Such activities, though seemingly casual, are not healthy. In reality, they have ulterior motives. Their real intention is to form a kind of fraternity in which members may support each other and collude when necessary. This is against party rules. People should avoid such gatherings and dinners. Some officials use their power to create formal factions and turn the places they administrate into their fiefdoms, where they meddle and intervene in personnel matters in favor of those in their own faction. Consequently, when one goes down, they will take all the others with them. Another prominent problem is that some officials make careless and groundless remarks. If they were intentionally spreading rumors to create trouble, it would violate party discipline and even state laws. Actually, they merely make inappropriate jokes, spread hearsay, or engage in gossip. Some like to disseminate falsehoods through the internet or gather with their intimates to make groundless criticisms of the CPC Central Committee's policies. Others like to poke their noses into affairs that are none of their business. Once they get the inside information, they spread it around secretly. While some officials involved in serious cases were being investigated by the Central Committee, some high-ranking officials complained in private that those involved had done a lot of good work and should not be investigated for such tiny mistakes. Is that true? Reading the confessions of those violators, we can conclude none of them was wrongfully accused. Their irresponsible dissemination of rumors and groundless comments, though not made on official occasions, could also severely erode and undermine the unity of our party. Another problem is that some officials do not report their absence from their posts to the party organization without good reason, and argue that everyone has some personal affairs to attend to and therefore is entitled to some free time. When I worked in local offices, I always stayed on duty in the office during holidays and festivals for fear that something unexpected might happen. On holidays, leaders in some departments in various places leave their posts to go on vacation elsewhere. How can officials in some departments be so neglectful, taking holidays in faraway places? What would happen should an emergency occur in that places under their administration? Officials should have a strong sense of responsibility and stay on duty during holidays. This does not mean officials cannot take a break. The point is how and where they take vacation and whether they keep in mind the responsibility on their shoulders. Most officials perform well in this regard and can conscientiously remain at their posts even during holidays. This is a rule worth observing, is it not? In other cases, some violate the regulation regarding officials reporting major personal matters. It is not only life and death matters that should be reported. Some officials deliberately conceal their serious illness from others, and the party organization knows nothing of it even when they are critically ill. In such a physical condition, they are unable to perform their normal duties. Even so, they never report the situation until they die, itself a result of delayed treatment. Some do not report the fact that their children or spouses have stayed abroad for a long time. According to regulations, officials should report to the party organization if their family members settled down abroad. They think it unnecessary to report, since their family members have not officially settled down abroad. Some do not report major changes in their family situation, even after they have been divorced or remarried for years. The party organization is still kept in the dark. Some have many passports and even fake ID cards. Should not these things be reported? According to the rules, they should report them. Why do some keep such things unreported? One reason is that they do not know the rules, and the other is that they have ulterior motives. Some high-ranking party officials have even compiled a coded language which they use when speaking with their families and those close to them, just like spies. Is this normal? Leaking confidential information, interceding for others, and asking for a favor on their behalf also pose a problem. Some divulge party organizations' internal discussions and decisions in a covert and implicit manner to people involved. It is hard to deny the existence of such behavior, but it is done so secretly that investigation to prove such a case is extremely difficult. When the party organization decides to promote an official, leakers can inform him or her simply by saying words like passed or okay. When the party organization decides to investigate someone, leakers can warn him or her simply by saying, be mindful. Soliciting support for others in official selection is also a problem. Some people intervene in the appointment of officials at the places where they used to serve as leaders and still have influence. They do not directly advocate a candidate's promotion, but imply their view by saying someone is good or not bad, making it hard to find evidence against them. It is inadvisable for them to still meddle in personnel matters in areas where they no longer serve. Furthermore, some canvass behind the scenes for, solicit votes for, and lend a hand to those they favor in elections. They do not always do this publicly, and they may pretend it is unintentional, leaving no clues to trace when the matter is investigated. But should such behavior be allowed? Does all this not violate rules? A person without rules will become lost, and a party without rules will fall into disorder. The above-mentioned problems, if not addressed through stringent measures, will spread like an epidemic and eventually undermine the health of the party. Some party rules are written and others not. Nevertheless, a party official, especially a high-ranking official, should be clear about all of them. Otherwise, he or she lacks the awareness and qualifications that a qualified official, especially a high-level one, should have. Whether to report on matters that are not clearly stipulated in writing really depends on the degree of one's party awareness and sense of being a party member. Usually officials who violate party discipline start by going counter to established practical rules. Problems will emerge if we fail to establish and strictly implement rules. We know this from experience. To obey the rules is an important test of their engagement with the party as well as their loyalty to the party. To observe political discipline and rules, it is essential to focus on the following 5 areas. First, we must uphold the authority of the Central Committee. All party members, especially officials, must make sure their thinking, their actions, and their political stance all maintain a high degree of unity within the Central Committee and follow its command at all times and under all conditions. Party members must not feign compliance while acting in opposition and doing things their own way. They must not pass irresponsible comment on the Central Committee's policies or make remarks in public against its guidelines. Second, we must safeguard the unity of the party. No one is permitted to foster private forces within the party. We need to unite with everyone loyal to the party, regardless of their origin and background. We need to unite with the great majority rather than differentiate people in light of personal preference and forge any form of factions. Third, we must abide by organizational procedures. No one is permitted to make a decision without authorization or act arbitrarily. Concerning major issues, one should request instructions or report as required. No one is permitted to act beyond his or her authority without prior approval. Fourth, we must obey the decisions of the party organization, and no one is permitted to carry out activities it bans or haggle with it. When one is confronted with problems beyond one's capacity to handle, then one seeks help from and relies on the party organization instead of lying to or opposing it. Fifth, we must rein in our relatives and immediate staff, and we should never allow them to intervene in official matters, influence policy formulation and personnel matters, meddle in daily work, or use their connections to seek personal gain. Of all party discipline and rules, political discipline and rules should be given top priority. Recent years of investigations into serious violations of party discipline and state laws by high-ranking officials Zhou Yongkang, Bo Xilai, Shu Kai-ho, Ling Ji-hua, and Su Rong in particular show that violations of the party's political discipline and political rules have become a prominent problem and must be treated with the utmost importance. In the case of such people, the greater power and higher position they hold, the less they take the party's political discipline and rules seriously. Some of their conduct is outrageous, driven by their overinflated political ambitions and eagerness to acquire personal gain or the benefit of their inner circle. Some resort to political conspiracies against the party and plot to undermine and divide it. Some officials place themselves above the party organization and consider themselves the ultimate authority. In an attempt to form factions, cliques, and coteries, they treat the places that the party entrusts them to administrate as their own independent fiefdoms, where they fail to report to the Central Committee issues related to the appointment of officials and the taking of decisions. Their principal aim is to bolster their own image. They search for others to support and to promote and build momentum for themselves, which demonstrates the extent of their political ambitions. Some take egoism and insolence to extremes, ignoring decisions and plans of the Central Committee in a roundabout way, and even wantonly attacking the theories, guidelines, principles, and policies of the party, and spreading malicious slander against central leaders. They also suppress or crack down on those who disagree with them. They persist in their belief that their great chance is coming and try to eliminate anyone in their way. How reckless they are. This is absolutely forbidden in our party. Those who do so will find themselves lifting rocks only to drop them on their own feet. They may be relentless in their scheming, but they only end up bringing about their own destruction. Clarifying the rules is a prerequisite for the strict punishment of violators. Party organizations at all levels must give top priority to strict obedience to discipline and rules and create an atmosphere of observing discipline and rules throughout the party. Political discipline and rules must be clearly emphasized and firmly implemented without any obscurity or evasion. Officials at all levels, especially high-ranking officials, should have a strong sense of discipline and rules, set the example in obeying them, and consciously enhance their political awareness. In particular, we need to strengthen education and guidance of young officials and make them aware of the importance and seriousness of obeying discipline and rules at the very moment they take office. They need to realize they will eventually destroy themselves if they fail to observe party discipline and rules, ignore party organizations, seek a higher position through greed for power, or stop at nothing for personal gain. All our party committees need to strengthen discipline, scrutiny, and inspection, and ensure violators receive deserved punishments. Keep in line with the CPC Central Committee, December 11th, 2015, part of the speech at the National Conference on Party Schools. The CPC is a Marxist political party under a unified central leadership. Unity in political stance, homogenized theory, and practice are critical to the development and growth of the party's cause. As training institutions for party members and officials, the schools of the CPC must always keep in line with the CPC Central Committee in political stance as well as in theory and in practice. Failure to do so will lead to betrayal of the party's basic guidelines. Chairman Mao Zedong said in his speech at the preparatory meeting of the 7th CPC National Congress in 1945, "You know, a troop formation is not always in order. That is why we have to often dress our ranks, dress left, dress right, and dress center. We must dress to the party Central Committee and to the party National Congress. Maintaining order is the principle, but deformation is inevitable in real life. We dress our ranks whenever there is deformation." Footnote 1, Mao Zedong, Guiding Principles of the 7th National Congress of the CPC, Collected Works of Mao Zedong, Volume 3, Chinese edition, People's Publishing House, Beijing, 1996, page 297 to 298. End of footnote 1. The simple statement conveys a profound truth. The army needs to frequently dress ranks to remain in order, no matter how well the troops are trained. However, alignment in political stance, theory, and practice is not as easy as correction of the physical formation. We dress our ranks to enhance the party's experience in self-improvement and exploration of the laws governing its development. Only through frequent dressing of the ranks by party organizations at all levels can the entire party remain alert to disorder and maintain forward momentum in unity and with full vigor. Therefore, one of the main purposes of regularly training officials at party schools is to help them keep in line with the party Central Committee. To raise their awareness of keeping in line with the Party Central Committee, party schools must focus all their work on the Party Central Committee's policies and plans. Before the Yan'an rectification movement, the divorce between theory and practice and prevalence of subjectivism and dogmatism at party schools gave rise to deviations from the guidelines of the Party Central Committee led by Mao Zedong. Footnote 2. The Yan'an rectification movement refers to a Marxist education campaign inside the CPC from 1942 to 1945. Its main aims were to fight against objectivism in order to improve theoretical study, to fight against sectarianism in order to improve party conduct, and to fight against eight-legged party essays in order to improve writing. Through the movement, the whole party reaffirmed the practice of applying the basic theories of Marxism to the actual conditions of China's revolution. It is called the Yan'an Rectification Movement because the CPC Central Committee was seated in Yan'an at the time. End of footnote 2. Mao criticized these phenomena in a report titled Reform Our Study, produced in May 1941, which drew little attention at the time, as he mentioned in September 1943. Footnote 3, Mao Zedong, A Biography, 1893 to 1949, Volume 1, Chinese edition, Central Party Literature Publishing House, Beijing, 2004, page 655. End of footnote 3. The Central Party School conducted structural reforms on February 28, 1942, and at the end of March the same year. It was placed under the direct leadership of Chairman Mao, aiming to correct deviations and practices at the school that were incompatible with the party's cause. In the current era, party schools must dress to the Party Central Committee and conduct their work in accordance with the party's theories, principles, guidelines, and policies. Party schools should also conform to the decisions of the 18th CPC National Congress and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th plenary sessions of the 18th CPC Central Committee, and to the party Central Committee's policies and plans regarding the pursuit of reform, development, and stability, handling of national defense, and domestic and foreign affairs, and governance of the party, the country, and the military. Party schools must firmly uphold the Party Central Committee in every aspect of their work, including curriculum, research programs, and new teaching and research methods. Only by keeping itself in line with the Party Central Committee can a party school guide its trainees in doing so. How else can a party school provide practical guidance to its trainees? To raise their awareness of keeping in line with the Party Central Committee, party schools must strictly abide by the party's political discipline and rules. Party schools are more than ordinary schools in the sense that they should meet higher political standards, as they are institutions training key officials for the governance of the country. I have heard complaints about some teachers who spread Western capitalist values in classes at party schools, who make indiscreet and inappropriate comments on major policies of the party and state, who always assume a cynical and fault-finding attitude, and who imprudently engage themselves in improper social activities in the name of party schools. Although they are only a small percentage of party school teachers, these phenomena can have far-reaching consequences and must not be seen at party schools. In fact, we welcome criticism of the party and the state's policies and work, no matter how sharp it may be. We encourage open-minded thinking and analysis of party and state policies and measures. However, innovative analysis must be built upon a firm political stance. Academic questions should not be discussed as political issues, and vice versa. Academic research does not justify impulsive remarks at any time, or remarks made for the sake of being different and seeking notoriety. It is also worth mentioning that individual criticism is mostly exploratory and sometimes only reflects a partial view of reality. Its validity needs to be tested in practice. Individual criticism can be discussed as an internal research subject or reported to higher authorities through channels within our organizations. Prudence must be practiced in voicing individual criticism in class or in publications. Words once spoken are subject to the interpretation of the listener. The public may easily take the criticism as the truth because they see people working for the party schools as authoritative. Some people with ulterior motives may use what they hear from party schools to exaggerate criticism of the party and differences of opinion within the party. The serious consequences of ill-considered statements at party schools must not be underestimated. In short, the expression of opinions and remarks regarding major political and theoretical issues in class, at party schools, or on other public occasions should be based on an awareness of maintaining the prestige of the party, upholding the authority of the Party Central Committee, and building a positive image of party schools. No area is out of bounds as far as academic research is concerned, yet teaching at party schools requires discipline. No out-of-bounds area does not mean no discipline. Words and actions against the four cardinal principles and views that run counter to the party's theories, principles, guidelines, and policies, whether expressed in private or in public, are not allowed at party schools. This is a political discipline to which party schools should conform in an exemplary way. Enhance party conduct. Uphold clean government and fight corruption. January 12th, 2016. Part of the speech at the 6th plenary session of the 18th Central Commission for Discipline Inspection. Our party has a pivotal task in the final phase of completing the building of a moderately prosperous society in all respects. We have pledged to be a good blacksmith in forging good tools, and we have given our word to hammer hard in observing party discipline. Over the past 3 years, we have been addressing the problems of being lax, slack, and lenient in party governance, and effectively sent out a warning to the whole party to prevent, deter, and punish corruption. The campaign against corruption is resolute and relentless. The resolve of the CPC to fight corruption has not wavered, and the goal of curbing the spread of corruption has not changed. The whole party must remain confident about the Central Committee's determination to crack down on corruption, about the results that we have seen and will see, about the positive energy the campaign evokes, and about the bright future of our fight against corruption. Nonetheless, we should keep a clear head and remember that we still face severe challenges and a complex situation in our efforts to enhance party conduct, uphold clean government, and fight corruption. The cases investigated since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, in which senior officials violated party discipline and the law, have shown that most corrupt officials have lost their faith in the party, taken bribes, led extravagant lives, and been autocratic in office. Since the Congress, the Central Committee has, time and again, reiterated that officials must strictly abide by political discipline and rules. However, there are still those who turn a deaf ear to these requirements, ganging up to further their selfish interests and stopping at nothing to expand their power. There are still those who, knowing well that they are not the candidates for the next term of office, send out their cronies to lobby for votes and engage in unauthorized activities. There are also those whose ambitions fire a desire to enter the central leadership when alive and be buried at Babaoshan when dead. Footnote 1. Babaoshan Revolutionary Cemetery, located in western Beijing, is the main resting place for revolutionary heroes and high-ranking officials. End of footnote 1. There are still those who set up independent fiefdoms where they govern, banding together and feigning compliance with central decisions while acting in opposition and resorting to no end of unscrupulous means to achieve their personal aims. These problems have a vital bearing on the political security of the party and the state. Is this not urgent enough? Do we still avoid the issue and keep our counsel about them? Young pines should grow 1,000 feet high, while poisoning bamboos should be cut down one by one. Footnote 2. Du Fu. 5 rhymes to send Duke Yan on the way to the thatched cottage in Chengdu. Jiangfu Chengdu, Qiao Tang Tu, Zhang You, Zuo Jian, Ji Yan, Zhenggong Wu Shu. Du Fu, 712 to 770, was a poet of the Tang dynasty. End of footnote 2. If we do not eradicate evil, if it seizes the earliest opportunity to make its comeback, our political environment will falter, and our party members and the people will lose their faith in us. It has been said that if corruption makes a return this time, the people will lose heart. This is why our pledges were not idle. We must live up to our words. Corruption still exists. Some corrupt officials are still taking chances, taking roundabout ways to escape punishment. Some continue to sell official positions, illegally sell or lease out land, scramble for a cut of lucrative projects, and use every means to collect bribes in the millions or even billions of yuan. Some have tried to lie to the party organization and counter the organization, hiding their bribes and colluding with others involved in an attempt to escape punishment by party discipline and the law. They have spread rumors in a bid to cover up their crimes, thinking they could take advantage of and get away with it. The four malfeasances have been reined in, but they have not been eradicated. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, many of the officials have been investigated and punished due to self-indulgence and extravagance, whining and dining, and continuing to go down the wrong path, and new symptoms and varieties of the four malfeasances have arisen in many forms. Reality tells us that we are still challenged by the arduous task of running our party with strict discipline, and we must continue to maintain a tough position on fighting corruption. The guidelines for our work in 2016 to enhance party conduct, uphold clean government, and fight corruption are: fully implement the decisions and plans made at the 18th CPC National Congress and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th plenary sessions of the 18th CPC Central Committee. Promote the four-pronged strategy in a coordinated fashion and remain steadfast in our path and cause. Run our party with strict discipline and by rigorous rules. Fulfill our duties as stipulated in the party constitution and focus on scrutiny, action, and accountability. Address both symptoms and root causes, promote systemic and institutional innovation, and improve the rules and regulations. Strengthen internal scrutiny of the party, emphasize the central role of discipline, and continue to implement the 8 rules of the Party Central Committee. Footnote 3. The 8 rules were proposed by the Political Bureau of the 18th Central Committee of the CPC to cut bureaucracy and maintain close ties with the people. They are summarized as follows: improving inspection and fact-finding trips, streamlining conferences and other activities, reducing documents and briefings, standardizing arrangements for visits abroad, enhancing security procedures, improving news reports, imposing restriction on publishing of writings without authorization, and practicing diligence and frugality. End of footnote 3. Take solid measures to deal with misconduct and corruption that directly affect people's lives, resolutely prevent corruption from spreading, and build an honest, clean, and responsible team of discipline, inspection, and supervision. All of these are aimed at achieving new results in enhancing party conduct, upholding clean government, and combating corruption. For our work this year, we will put the focus on the following areas. First, upholding the party constitution and strictly enforcing the party's rules on clean government and self-discipline and the regulations on disciplinary action. The party must practice self-discipline and be strict with its members. This is stipulated in the general program of the party constitution, and it is the fundamental principle of party development. Article 37 of the party constitution rules that the party organizations must strictly observe and maintain party discipline. This sets out a concrete requirement under which party organizations must bear primary responsibility. Party committees at all levels must closely follow this strategic direction, both in guiding principles and in concrete measures, giving discipline top priority and addressing problems promptly as they occur. When someone has made a mistake, tell him straight, make him flush and sweat. This is what we ought to do. For serious problems, more formal disciplinary action, such as imposing a disciplinary punishment, should be taken by party organizations. The secretary of a party committee, charged with main responsibility, should assume overall responsibility for running his party committee with strict discipline. Do not consider any virtue as unimportant and therefore neglect it. Do not consider any vice as trivial and therefore practice it. If we had paid attention to minor breaches of discipline, if we had enforced strict discipline from the outset, how many could have been saved from breaking the law? In the past, we tolerated erroneous acts as long as they did not violate the law, and when they did break the law, we sidestepped the problem and left the law to deal with the violators. This reflects irresponsibility towards our party and officials. According to the Air Force, training a pilot costs as much gold as the pilot weighs. How much does it cost, then, to cultivate an official at the provincial level? Many of our officials started at the grassroots. They rose in the ranks only to be ruined by a wrong step in the end. Of course, there were earlier indications of wrongdoing, but why did not we help them and correct their mistakes before it was too late? This is because we did not put discipline in the forefront. The rules of the Communist Party of China on clean government and self-discipline, and the regulations of the Communist Party of China on disciplinary action, both going into effect in January 2016, provide clear provisions on the high standards for party members and the disciplinary measures to govern the party. Now, equipped with clear standards, rules of action, and supervision over discipline, we must make every effort to thoroughly implement them. Party committees and discipline inspection commissions at all levels should first strengthen supervision and inspection over such matters as upholding the party constitution and executing the party's guidelines, policies, and decisions, with the focus on implementing the plans and decisions made at the 18th CPC National Congress and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th plenary sessions of the 18th CPC Central Committee and major decisions of the Party Central Committee, so as to ensure unified action of the whole party and effective execution of the Central Committee's policies and decisions. Where there is power, there is an equivalent weight of responsibility. When enforcing accountability, we cannot be affected by personal feelings or show leniency, but rather be thorough in methods and determined in action so as to prevent corruption. In 2014, we initiated the accountability mechanism in the bribery case involving local elections in Hengyang, Hunan Province. We took disciplinary action against 467 individuals and referred cases involving 69 of them to the judiciary for prosecution. Last year, we investigated a similar election bribery case in Nanchang, Sichuan Province, meting out severe punishment to all 477 persons involved. These two cases are extreme and vile in nature, challenging our party and our socialist democracy. By investigating these cases and resolutely punishing those responsible, we have shown our position on the matter. Those who neglect their duties must be held accountable, and party discipline must be enforced in full. This is the election year for new local party leaderships. We must strengthen discipline and the rules and enforce accountability, supervision, and investigation so that the elections are fair and just. In any region, department, or unit, those responsible for typical acts of misconduct will be seriously investigated and held accountable if, within their purview, any of these happens: failure to ensure the party's leading role, deviation from the plans and decisions of the party, violations of the guidelines and rules for governing party organizations, negligence of supervisory duties when selecting and appointing officials, serious instances of the four malfeasances and corruption, and ineffectiveness in rectifying the problems discovered by inspection teams. The officials in charge will be held accountable for failure to fulfill their primary responsibility and supervisory responsibility, as will the head of the next higher level party committee and the committee itself for failure to perform their leadership responsibility. We should improve and regulate the accountability system, set up a mechanism to circulate notices of typical accountability cases, enforce accountability with the support of other means of supervision, and encourage fulfillment of official duties through regular accountability checks so as to fully execute party discipline. Second, sparing no effort to improve party conduct. The conduct issue is, in nature, an issue of party spirit. For us communists, conduct is a yardstick that measures our faith in Marxism, our convictions in socialism and communism, and our loyalty to the party and the people. We must crack down on any violation of party discipline with an iron fist and be able to discern any form of misconduct, no matter what it may have morphed into. In enhancing party conduct, we should strengthen our party spirit and carry on the best traditions of the Chinese culture. Here, I would like to emphasize the issue of educating and restraining one's family members. From the cases of corruption investigated in recent years, we can see that family was an important factor in inciting officials to commit serious violations of party discipline and the law. Many officials were not only involved in trading power for money themselves, but also connived at bribe taking by their family. Using the parental influence helped by the parental connections and status, their children benefited from businesses with illegal gains. The harm this does cannot be underestimated. The ancient Chinese said, "He who would govern the country must first run his family well and discipline himself." Footnote 4. Zhao Jiang, The Nature of Essays, Bun Wen. Zhao Xiang, 959 to 993, was an official of the Northern Song Dynasty. End of footnote 4. Give close kin official posts and lose your job and ruin your family. One must not violate the law of heaven and earth and must set a good example for the offspring. In this regard, the old generation of revolutionaries set the right example. Now, all officials in leadership positions must uphold integrity and self-discipline and educate and restrain their spouses, children, and immediate staff. At a meeting of criticism and self-criticism of the political bureau of the party central committee before the new year, I made a point of this. I said, "You must be constantly on the alert for signs of possible wrongdoing by family members and nip the vice in the bud. Do not try to hide your child's wrongdoing. do not assume they can easily get away with it. Children of party officials must also abide by the law and party discipline. They must also be punished if they violate the law and discipline, and in such cases, be severely punished and let the people see. For complex and historical problems and problems that have lingered for a long time, we must persevere and solve them one by one till all are addressed. Third, deterring corruption and preventing its spread. Whoever dares to try their hand at corruption must pay. A fully grown tree, if the worms eating it are not treated, will eventually wither away. Our tough stance on corruption will never soften, and no exception is made for any organization or individual. For corruption, we have zero tolerance. The focus should be put on cases intertwined with political degeneration and corruption, on corrupt officials who have indulged themselves in illegal activities, and on those in leadership positions who have been strongly suspected of wrongdoing, who have been repeatedly reported by the public for malpractice, and who are currently holding important offices with a probability of promotion. We should make in-depth analyses of typical cases in violation of party discipline and the law, so that they serve as a warning to deter corruption and educate our officials. We will make greater efforts to track down corrupt officials who have fled overseas and recover the money they have stolen. We will promote international cooperation under such multilateral frameworks as the G20, APEC, and the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, and carry out special programs on a global scale to pursue the criminals, seeking out fugitives, and warning those who harbor dreams of fleeing. Fourth, enforcing strict party discipline at the grassroots. Currently, the majority of our grassroots level officials are good, but in some regions, departments, and units, some officials are still prone to misconduct and corruption, and such cases have risen in number and in the scale of their influence. There are cases of creating false accounts for receiving state subsidies and pocketing or embezzling special funds for farmers or poverty alleviation. There are cases of obtaining subsistence allowances or other subsidies for one's relatives and friends rather than for those really in need, and taking bribes or a cut from the subsidies issued. There are cases of ignoring the people, indifference to their suffering, going through the motions, and excessive bureaucracy. There are cases of abuse of justice, and in extreme cases, there are officials acting as agents of powerful families or gangs, tyrannizing and bullying the locals. The interests of ordinary people are hurt more by the flies that buzz around than the tigers that are far away. Corruption that seems small can lead to big losses, as it harms the immediate interests of the people, eats away at their sense of gain, and costs us their trust in our party. We must correct and punish corruption and abuse of justice at the grassroots level, safeguard the people's immediate interests, and deliver concrete results from our campaign against corruption. County party committees are the frontline command of governance for the party, and secretaries of these committees are the commanders in chief. Party committees at the provincial and city levels should take on primary responsibility for work at the county level, and in particular for strengthening the sense of responsibility in county party secretaries, improving grassroots party organizations and officials, and relying on them to fight our war against corruption, in which party members and officials should serve as role models. Fifth, addressing both symptoms and root causes and cleaning our political environment. In a sound political environment, people will foster a healthy mentality and thus better uphold integrity in office. In a tainted political environment, they will lose their grips and problems mushroom. Now, in some regions and departments, the upright force is waning while the evil force is rising. The official rules earn only lip service while the hidden rules prevail. The honest and the down to earth are sidelined, while those fond of showy success and blinded by the pursuit of instant rewards are in their element. If nothing is done to rein in and turn back these trends, we will suffer great losses to our team of officials. It is easy for laxity to set in and difficult for rigor to return. Footnote 5. Wang Bo, letter to Chancellor Liu. Shang Liu you xiang shou. Wang Bo, 650 to 676, was a writer of the Tang dynasty. End of footnote 5. Like restoring our natural environment, purifying the political environment can never be achieved in a day, but requires the work of coordinated measures. Officials at all levels, especially senior officials, should start with themselves and set a good example for their subordinates. It has always been the tradition of the Chinese nation to honor one's reputation and uphold integrity and clean government, and we have such sayings as governance by means of virtue and responsibility for one's jurisdiction. Officials must exercise power in a just way and in favor of clean governance. They must be role models in abiding by the party discipline and the law, and always follow party principles and fulfill their duties. We should adopt the correct approach to appointing officials, select and use those who are capable and upright, promote the able, demote the mediocre, and discharge the poorest performers. We should uphold the official rules and end the reign of the hidden rules, check for loopholes from uncovered corruption cases, and draw lessons from them. Improve the mechanisms of internal party political activities and conduct, leave no room for misconduct and corruption, and continue to enhance our political environment through systemic and institutional reform and innovation.